Welcome everybody to this episode of Buried Pleasures. I'm your hostess, Pollyanna Amazing. Thanks for joining us today. Just a reminder, we are a part. Fuck. Just a reminder, we're a part of the Just Some Podcast media family, which includes Just Some Podcasts for Advanced Practitioners and Nurse Papa. Today, we are going to have a pretty cool show. I've invited my awesome friend Jordan, who, is kind of cute little guy that we have over here today, girls. So if you haven't got a chance to watch the video, please do. He's a sweetie. But I had a listener messaged in and said, "Hey, can we talk about some more interesting topics?" And this guy's name is Charles Ramirez, and he wants to know about sexual fantasies. Why don't we talk about them after we get into relationships? Like when you're in a new relationship, you totally talk about fun and cool things. But then after you start talking marriage and that sort of thing, that stuff goes out the window. So my friend Jordan is going to, we're going to discuss that today. So, Jordan, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I just thought I'd introduce Zoe for those who are watching the video as well, since she's here on the bed. I'm well. Thank you for asking.
Well, I'm so glad that you're well. So, Jordan and I have been on the phone back and forth, texting all morning about what kind of cool things that we might bring up during this conversation. I'm telling you, I've been trying to record this show since, I don't know, early this morning. It's not worked out so well because I keep, for anybody out there who knows me, you squirrel, that's it. Little ADHD going on this morning. But we are finally here and we are ready to go. So, Jordan, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
So I'm Jordan. I'm a fire medic as well. I moved from Colorado, born and raised out there. In my 30s, I've been here in Washington for about 6 years, and I'm kind of a weird dude, as you can tell. So.
I wouldn't call you weird, dude. I like you. I think you're
I mean,
awesome.
compared to like the your average.
Oh, you're not average for sure.
Right, that's what makes me weird.
I don't think you're weird at all. So, Jordan, would you call yourself a fire medic?
Yeah.
Is that the term now?
Well, I
Firefighter,
mean, you can say
paramedic? Yeah.
yeah, and then you just say
Okay.
fire medic. It makes it easier.
Fire medic. I like it. I don't know in all these years that I've known firefighter paramedics that I've ever called anybody fire medic, but it sounds like it fits. It sounds pretty cool. So that's awesome. So, Jordan, let's get on this subject. What
So I
do you think
think
about this? Yeah.
the first thing that comes to mind, just talking this morning with you about it, is
Yeah.
a question that you ask people a lot is like, when do you fart in front of your
Oh
new
yeah.
girlfriend or your
Mhm.
spouse? And some people are married for years. My mom's one of those people who's like, she never fart in front of my stepdad. She
Right.
would never, let anyone know that she pooped. She was very like secretive about all that stuff. And I think that to me speaks volumes about like, when are you going to tell your new girlfriend or maybe your new wife that like, hey, I want you to choke me.
Yeah.
Like, that could scare them away.
Totally. You don't want to scare them away. That is for sure. I've in my personal experience that might have been an issue when you're trying new things or trying to be cool and or at least trying to be adventurous. Sometimes things don't go like as fun as you think it might. So I've had that whole yeah, I've had this discussion with a bunch of different partners. So with you, being raised by a woman who doesn't like that kind of thing, like very secretive, very private, how does that filtered over into your sex life, do you think?
I definitely had a very interesting intro into sex, I would say. I think I'm like everyone else where like I had my first like real sexual experience in my teenage years, and like I remember having, of course we all remember having my first like losing my virginity and having sex with a girl and being like, that was fucking gross. Not like she was gross, but like the
Right.
whole experience of like the sweat and the smells and the
Uh-huh.
stickiness. And I was like, no more of that. I didn't
Yeah.
want it. And so for like 5 years, 4 or 5 years afterwards, I was like, blowjobs only, ladies. Like, I am not gonna get into the stickiness and smells, which is very, very weird and unfortunate for those women that had to go through me not wanting to essentially put out for them. But
Yeah. That's very interesting. I don't think I've had anybody on the show that's brought up that fact that they thought, well, most people that come on the show are all about like all gung ho sex, 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 who gets to do more, who gets to do better things or whatever, but you actually had a little aversion, which is definitely different. There's nothing wrong with it, but being raised by a mom like that might be an issue that caused you to have those thoughts or just that experience. So, oh, that's so interesting that you're saying that. So tell me, how did you get over that, after a while?
I think just meeting more girls and developing more of those relationships, I would like, okay, I guess I'll get weird with you and we can make those smells and get sweaty, but I'm going to take a shower like right afterwards. And that's what kind of got me more comfortable with expanding into that stuff. And I
Gotcha.
think, or at least I hope, that everyone had that experience where like you're just naked and intimate with someone, just kind of like, you know, figuring out what's good, what's not, like, is this okay? And now I'm definitely to the point where like I'm very, very comfortable with myself and my skin, other people and their skin. I think that if you're going to argue, you should be naked. You should argue naked because like your distractions are going to go away and you're going to realize what's important. You're like, "Pff, you know what? I don't care if you burn breakfast. Let's fuck." Like, not even mad anymore.
Not even mad, not even mad. I think that would cause a little bit of laughter if nothing else. That's such a good idea. What a smart thing to say. So, I'm really that blows me away that you just said that because it's true. We have all these false pretenses about relationships and we always compare ourselves to everybody else no matter how hard we try. Like, so your advice to people would be get naked, fight about it, fight it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
I've
good.
done that a few times where like we get mad about something and I'll be like, no, get in the shower right now. Like we're gonna have this conversation in the shower. And the argument solved so quickly. No sex happened afterwards. It was just like a quick, short argument, like, I'm sorry, you're sorry, I forgive you. We hugged it out, got out of the shower. It's fine. It's just like, dude, I gotta do that more often. Like, how do I convince?
How do you convince people to do that? That's
Yeah.
awesome. So this girl jumps in the shower with you and says, "Okay, that's cool." But do you have trouble communicating outside the shower, or are you good on that level as well?
I'm pretty good at communicating. My biggest problem personally is that like I default to either like anger or um, just like a wall. So
Yeah.
I'll just kind of like once like I'm in trouble, then I get very calculated and emotionless, where I'm
Mhm.
like, "You're correct. I did something wrong. I'm sorry,"
Mhm.
and that doesn't do anything for anyone.
Right.
I'm like, "But I
Right.
did. I said the words, but I'm
But
working
you
on
didn't mean them. Actually, one of my last guests said the same thing. He was like, we go through the motions. I say I'm sorry, blah blah blah, but I don't mean it. I don't care. I'm not really sorry, you know? And that's an interesting thing because we do often, I think a lot of times, just for the sake of civility, you're trying to be civil and you're trying to say things like, I really hate it that you're hurting, but really, I don't feel like I did anything, but I'm going to tell you I'm sorry anyway. Sorry. But the
yeah."
intention's not there. So the feeling's not there. So moving past that, and when you're in a relationship, how best is it to bring up these weird and odd fantasy things that you're wanting to talk about, right? For me, the things that I've done in my lifetime, I pretty much am an open book when it comes to my friends, family know that you want to talk about sex, I'm all about it. They don't want to always, but I'm really right there to talk to you about it. So I have never had a problem with saying, I would love for you to do this. I would like to do this to you. I would like for us to do this together. I've not had that problem, but I think I didn't have a realization that I wanted to even ask those questions in the beginning of my relationships when I got married to my first husband, because I was trying to figure out what the hell a wife is anyway, other than, you live with somebody that you like to hang around with and you get to have sex and, but life happens. What else happens after that, right? So, what is your experience in that? Tell me some stories about what's going on.
So I think for me, kind of breaking the ice on that
Yeah.
is like once you figure out kind of what you want to do, like then like saying like, okay, so I got to have sex. So we'll bring up what we talked about earlier. Like, I was with this girl who I was absolutely head over heels for, and felt like I was lucky just to see her naked, and
Mhm.
I wasn't gonna mess that up at all. I was
Yeah.
lucky that she held my hand. And so like when the time came when I was like, you know, 6, 8, 9, 16 months later, and I was like, you can put your mouth on my pee pee, like just super like beat around the bush about it. But what really I like to do more is kind of have you start being like, so what else do you like? Like, do you like this missionary? Do you want to do something else? Like, let's get let's expand that. What are your fantasies? And that can kind of help open it a little bit.
Mhm.
But if you're like, hey, what are your fantasies? And she's like, oh, do it in the kitchen. And you're like, okay, we can do it in the kitchen, but like, what else? You know what I mean? Like, I'll
Yeah.
wear a fake mustache. I'll shave this real mustache and wear a fake one. Like, what do you want me to do? And she's like, well, what we doing is great. That to me can be defeating. And then I don't want to tell them that like,
Yeah.
I want to, I want to get toys in the bedroom. I want to
Gotcha.
get record this. I want to do whatever.
I think I have seen a lot, and I've had people say this to me. Why would I ever want to learn more about doing it, the actual physical act of sex? You teach about sex, you teach about Tantra. Why would I want to even do that when I think what I have right now is okay? And I often tell people, you know, it's just like when you find something really good to eat that you've never tried
I was
before.
just gonna bring up a food one.
You can totally say that. Like, that is exactly the thing. Like, I used to tell the people, we used to joke around at work, and say things like, well, you never knew you liked pizza until you liked pizza, right? Until you tried
Right.
it. um, there is something to be said about variety in life. And it's not to say, and again, people get shamed and feel terrible when you bring up those subjects. Like, I'm happy having my normal male, female, heterosexual, one night a week encounter, and we're good. And my husband's happy, I'm happy, whatever. But really, honestly, variety is the spice of life, they say. What's your thoughts?
I agree.
Yeah.
Go back to again the conversation we had earlier. I
Yeah.
was with a girl and she's like, "Hey, I'm into anal play," and I was
Hmm.
like, "I've never done anything like that." And she's like, "Well, don't worry, I'll show you the way." And I was like, "I don't know if I'm comfortable with this." And I was very. This is when I was just getting comfortable having sex, and now she
Right?
wants me to put it in her pooper or in her butt, whatever. And I was like, I had so many questions, like, is it clean? Is it sterile? And everything that you can think of is
Right.
going on. And so big part for that for me was like the experience itself, great, wonderful, felt good. She was super happy. I was still trying to figure out if I was happy. And then really afterwards, I was like, okay, so now what? Like, well, I just asked so many questions, and she was like, dude, do you know how to use the internet? Because you should Google this stuff. But since I've learned that now,
Hmm.
once I'm with someone for a little bit, I want to explore their kinks, fetishes, and
Right.
just see like, hey, have you tried this yet? No, and I'd be like, okay, great, we should try it, and you should see if you like it. Trust me, it's gonna be safe. If you're uncomfortable, please tell me. And just setting those ground rules out of like, let me try this with you. Let me try choking you, and if you don't like it, tell me right away. And if you
Right.
do like it, like I can do that because let's. I want to make you happy.
Right. Right. It's kind of like, right prior to the show, guys. I don't know if anybody out there has ever heard of anything called the vajankle. By the way, it's a it's a fetish toy, and it is an actual, it looks like a severed foot with a vagina in what would be the calf part of the leg. Um, although is a it's I don't even know what to say about it. For me personally, that is a disturbing thing, but if somebody out there has a foot fetish and that is something that helps them, I'm not opposed to it. Again, it's not something that I'm just like, oh, I'm going to run out and buy that right now because it's so cool. That's not the end of the spectrum that I would like to hit on today. Um, but it's, it is very difficult. If my husband came home and said, I would like to have um some unusual toy come into, like, it's backing up to backing up, get it? We're backing up to the website that I saw the other day. A friend of mine let me know about, because she's looking for a dildo in the shape of tentacle. So if my husband said, hey, I'd like to bring a tentacle dildo into our sex play, I would have to laugh, number one, because that's how I communicate. When I'm uncomfortable, I start laughing. So although sometimes inappropriate, years of working in EMS and in the ER, it makes you just like, oh, that too. Okay, then you just giggle about it and walk on. Um, but honestly, I would have to say, well, really, you like that? Do you? You never told me you like that. But he really, we do communicate well. Like, not a whole lot of people communicate as well as we do, as I have seen. But it's still a touchy subject, right? Because I'm thinking, well, what the heck? He's never told me he likes tentacle porn before. Why not? Why not add it? Why not talk about it? Because it gets really tough. Sometimes people can't, people get super sensitive. I've gotten super sensitive over certain things, and then I totally shut down, put the wall down, and then don't talk to me for however long I say you can't talk to me. And so I understand that. And that's a little bit difficult. Have you ever had a girlfriend that was able to, or even, whatever partner, have you had a partner that could say to you, I would love to add in sheep. Let's do this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, yeah, you have.
Yeah, I have. I've had not specifically sheep, but
Okay, just checking.
I have in who's been like, "Hey, I want you to do this to me. I want you to
Mhm.
I think choke is such an easy one
Right.
to
That's it.
add
That's,
in
yeah, exactly.
because I mean, and fill that in, listeners, with whatever you want other than choking. But choke is just such an easy one where like you want to be choked, but it's not something you're going to bring up at the dinner table.
Right. Right.
And like I feel that from either's perspective, from the woman's perspective, where she could be like, well, I don't want to tell him what to do, or the man's perspective be like, she's not going to tell me what to do. But
Mm-hmm.
having that openness, trust, I think is the biggest part of all of this,
It's
and
huge.
being open and just saying like, hey, I want you to choke me. And if it's in the heat of the moment, honestly, that's when I want to hear it. But if you tell me beforehand too, great. But if I forget, give me a reminder. Just be like, a couple minutes in, look back. Hey, can you don't forget the
Tap in.
yeah, tap in. Give
Tap
me your
in.
hand. Put it here. Squeeze harder.
That's
Which
phenomenal.
is great. I think that's the way it should be. And that I think is where I learned how to ask for it. And so now I wrote down here,
Hmm.
um, I find myself wanting to push those limits with people.
Yeah.
And not in like a bad way where I'm just like, hey, what do you want to do? But like, what
Hmm.
do you really want? Like, really give it this a couple of days thought, and whatever you want to do, like, let's try it. Like, I'll tie you up. I'll go to the store and buy whatever. Like, let's get weird. Let's explore some weird shit because why not?
Because I'm a fire medic and I can tie knots. That's why.
If you pass out, I can bring you back. Don't worry.
That's
I know how to do
right.
that.
That's right. Listen, there's no fun in having this amazing sexual encounter, being choked, and then your partner passing out. That's also not something that people want to see. It's a deal breaker. It's kind of a game changer. Kind of, throws a flag on the field.
It's also no fun getting choked when somebody like and knowing how to do it. Like when someone just pushes on your windpipe and chokes you that way. Like that's not how you choke someone if you didn't know. you can Google this stuff to figure out how to safely and appropriately choke somebody. You want to squeeze on the side, not on the
Did you
windpipe.
ever think that you'd have a conversation about how to safely choke somebody? I'm pretty sure that now that I'm sitting here thinking in kindergarten, when I thought I was going to be the best nurse in the whole entire world, I was never going to have a conversation on how best to choke somebody for their pleasure. That's right.
I've had a conversation with a patient about like autoerotic asphyxiation.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
So you never, I call it a danger wank. You
Uh-huh.
never danger wank by yourself.
Yeah.
You always have to have a spotter because that
Mhm.
otherwise that's how we show up and have to tell your parents what happened, which is
Right.
nobody wants that.
Nobody wants
You got
that.
to have a spotter, a safety device, a way that like you can release it so it's
Mhm.
safe.
Safety. Safety, communication, teamwork. That's what we like around here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is the greatest. So, talking more on the long along the line. So, in the past, I know personally, I've been married 3 times. The listeners out there will know that. And I will honestly say the relationship that I'm in now is the most communicative. And so, you know, sorry for the other two husbands that I've had that we didn't get that opportunity to communicate as well as we could have, because I feel like we would have been better partners. Now that I'm older, now that I've had these, relationships, I am better equipped, I think, to handle those situations. You haven't been married before, correct?
No.
Still single, ready to mingle. And when it's a little bit different in a casual relationship, like we're talking about friends with benefits, or, just somebody that you hit up every now and again whenever you're feeling lonely, and they're down with it too. It's different to be able to talk about sexual fantasies with those kinds of people because you haven't married them, thought about having kids with them, or like extended life. So it's all cool and it's fun and it's new, so it's exciting. But when you get that marriage certificate, then you have those kids, and then you go on, you know it's like, or even if you don't have kids, you share dogs, whatever, whomever your partnership is with, you throw in those extra little things, and shit gets weird, right? Like you don't feel like you can tell them stuff sometimes based on the fact that you've changed roles. You're not just the cool guy that comes over every other week to eat pizza, watch a movie, and then have sex afterwards. You're actually somebody who has to take responsibility for things.
Hmm.
And that part sucks because then it's not that you lost that thought that you still like to do crazy kinky kinds of things. It's still there in your mind. How do you bridge that gap if you can't talk to your partner about it? What's your suggestion for that?
I think a lot of times, people talk about you can't have like a good relationship and good sex. You can have
Hmm.
one or the other, right?
Yeah.
And whenever you talk to most people, the best sex they've ever had in their life has always been like the most toxic relationship they've ever had in their life.
Right.
And I feel like we have this connection between the two of like, I want to say this right. We're like, man, I respect you so much that I'm going to take the trash out, be responsible, consider your emotions and everything. And by doing that, I'm not going to ask it if I can put it in your butt later, because
Yeah.
that's disrespectful. When
Right.
maybe it's not. Maybe that's what she's been waiting for. Like, I think
Yeah.
that you need to make the appropriate disconnect between the bedroom and everything else because having that good sexual relationship is only going to strengthen your relationship,
Hmm.
and being able to trust that person. It makes me so sad knowing people who are embarrassed or uncomfortable to be naked around their spouses. I'm like,
Hmm.
what? You should be naked around them all the time. You know what I mean? Like you should always be comfortable in your skin. You should always
Uh-huh.
be able to tell them like, "Hey, you need to go down on me tonight." And
Yeah.
that's all we're doing.
Yeah.
And he says, "Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And he says, okay, yeah, I'll bring that.
You got it,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
tomorrow's
I'll
my
bring the
turn."
towel. Let's go. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
I gotcha. I'll bring it. Anyway, I think you're right because we let that slip away, and it's detrimental to relationship because there's that whole part of the relationship that is based on honesty. But then you remember back before you got married that you really liked this one porn site. So you hit on it for a day, sneak in the bathroom, do whatever guys do when they look through porn while they're using the bathroom for hours. You got that whole thought, but you can't tell your wife about it because she might get upset because she had a baby. She's a little, a little bit thicker than she might have been before she had the baby, so she's feeling self-conscious. So we're basically running these little microcosms of universes in everybody's home of how can we politically correctly speak to our significant other when all it is just being real with each other. I think the world could take a note on that as well. Just being real. Be real with yourself, and you cannot be offended that way. Know who you are, be who you are. Don't just portray that. If you have fantasies, let somebody know, because you wall yourself off, just like we said earlier. You get that, I'm just going to shut down, and then fuck it.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter. I'll do what I want. You do what you want. And then you end up getting divorced or split up or whatever. Or the relationship stays and it's just not as fulfilling as it could have been had you taken the time to talk about weird or not weird sex things that you are requiring or asking of somebody else.
And
It's
it's
a
like you said, it's weird or not weird. It's not weird. It's just
right.
not not what society or what we were taught is the basic missionary, you know, what is that saw the other day, like the average is like 7 minutes of sex is the average. I was like, you poor women.
Yeah, right. You poor
I can't
men.
believe I can't believe you guys. 7 minutes? Like, oh man.
Yeah,
Um
that's one of the reasons why I teach multi-orgasmic practices because women sometimes do get the short end of the stick. Anyway, that's just
so
me being terrible.
I got busted, right? She
Gotcha.
like found my she found evidence that I had masturbated and watched porn, right? In my
What?
long-term relationship, and she's
Shameful.
like, "Did did you masturbate? Were you watching porn?" And me being comfortable with everything, I was like, "Yeah, you've been gone and we haven't had sex. Like, what do you fucking expect from me to just hang on?" Like, no, I had to get it out, you know?
Right.
You can't walk around with a loaded gun. You don't know what it's like to be a guy. Your brain processes things completely differently when you don't have a bunch of semen in you just
Ejaculation.
ready
Yeah, yeah.
fucking.
You're so
So
funny.
I told her, I was like, "Yeah, I did." And she was like, What do you mean?" I was like, "You don't masturbate when I'm not around." She's like, "Whoa." And I was like, "I know you have more than one fucking dildo.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me you haven't used them in the whole time the years we've been together?" She's like, "Okay, well, I have." And I was like, "Why are you being weird about it? Like, it's fine."
It is
I
fine.
think a way to kind of break the ice in the scenario that you were just talking about, like
Yeah.
maybe wives had some kids, husbands doing some internet searches in the bathroom. I think sharing what you guys are searching is a great way to break the ice of like, hey, you send me a porn, I'll send you a porn.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we do Twitter porn days at my house. Like, what kind of chicks you been looking at on Twitter porn today? Oh, the huge. That's what I get, the huge. But one of the things in the beginning, so I have not always been as open and liberal as I am about things. So one of the things in the beginning, I started, when you're in a relationship, and my husband knows all this, it's not like this is a secret, but I'd gotten out of two marriages. I was like, dude, pay attention to me. That's it. I don't need all this other stuff. And so it was really funny because he would keep, guys have their ways of keeping their porn allotted to this section or this section or
Oh
whatever.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Folders, files, whatever. So
Deep, deep in my computer. You'll never find it.
right, exactly. So, but at one point in time, I actually was looking through his phone just because I was having one of those lady moments that I couldn't ask him because I knew he wasn't going to tell me the truth. So I looked through his phone and I was devastated at
Mhm.
all of these beautiful, size 2 models, porn stars, looking gorgeous with their fucking perfect makeup and their hair and heels and things that I could never, like, I couldn't physically put on ever. Um, and I felt so shitty for that. Like, I felt like he betrayed me beyond betrayal at that point, you know? And I said to him, and this was before we've, had our major breakthroughs of things. I said to him, I'm so very sad that you think that these women are more beautiful than me. And he said, what are you talking about? I don't think they're more beautiful than you. It's just chicks to look at. Just shit I look at. That's it. Don't get so crazy about it. And I'm like, but why do you like to look at that? I don't fucking know. I'm a man. I like to look at naked ladies. I like to look at boobies. What there's no difference. And I said, well, how come there aren't any like other kinds of ladies other than these hot porn ladies? Why don't you look at ladies that look like me? And he said, well, fuck, I never thought about it. So now he looks at all of them. But in that moment, me thinking back, after I started becoming a sex educator and that sort of thing, I had to think really hard about what my take or my stance is on that in life and in the world, because I cannot help how I perceive, or I mean, like, sorry, saying that backwards. He cannot help how I perceive what he's doing. He's doing it because he does it for him, and vice versa. So his perception is, I'm just looking through some bitches on the phone, like, just to pass the time. It doesn't have anything to do with me wanting them or whatever. I just like engaging in looking at beautiful naked ladies.
Sure.
Well, damn, it took me a minute to figure that was okay, that he really wasn't doing anything. And it's kind of strange because I still today, I talk to women all the time and they're like, porn, it's gross. I don't want my husband or my significant other looking at it. And listen, I've had lesbian couples that I'm friends with too, that same deal. Like, one will look at porn, one doesn't like it. It's the same thing. um I just think that once you see something like that, like, stop looking on your significant other's phone, for one. Trust
Hmm.
them or get out of the relationship. It took me a minute to figure that one out, but I'm there. Also, if you just have to be real with yourself. So if you know that you're this amazing person, then fucking own it that you're that amazing person. And if you think something's going on, then get out of the relationship if you can't communicate with the person. That's what I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's big. I think that if for the, I'm sure, small portion of your audience that doesn't like watching porn, I assume everyone who's listening to a sex podcast watches porn. But for those of you who don't, I think that you guys should give it a try, and because there's so much porn out there, that
Hmm.
there's something out there for you. And granted, there's some stuff that's gonna make you uncomfortable, and there's stuff that you're gonna be like, whoa, you can do that, like,
Yeah.
just, and like you're saying, sometimes I'll like be in my living room, drinking coffee, eating breakfast, just watching porn on my phone because I'm interested in the weird things that are going on the internet. I'm like, what? How many cups?
Stop it. When I saw that, I literally physically became ill when I saw, what is it called? Two girls, one cup. Is that it? Two
Well,
girls, one
there's
cup.
that one, and that
I
was
don't know
ice
the other one.
cream.
I don't even want to hear it. It's so gross. I mean, like, that was years ago. So that's back when we
Yeah,
had flip phones still, for God's sakes.
right.
One of my friends at work showed me that and I literally gagged. I thought I was going to puke because okay, so whoever you are out there, and I'm not trying to shame you, but I know it sounds shaming because I just don't get it, and I apologize from the bottom of my heart, but that is not something that I want to ever get into.
I was just about
Like,
to say, I
that's
was
not
like, hey, if that's your thing, do it.
do it right, but I'm
Good
not
for you.
there. I'm just not there
Yeah.
on a personal level at all. Can't do it. Mm-mm, just can't.
The other thing I was gonna say is that was
Yep.
a big thing for me. Was I knew when I was like in that relationship, when I knew I liked that girl, is when I went through my phone and I got rid of those deep porn files on my phone. I was like, you know what? No porn on my phone. That's how much I like you.
Wow. But you know what? That's a funny thing that you felt like you needed to do that. It's not funny. I'm just funny in a not funny haha, but funny in an unusual, like, what was the trigger that made you think, "Oh, I like her. I don't want her to find porn on my phone." That's such a sweet guy thing, by the way. It's so
It
cute.
didn't work. I should
I
have just
bet.
kept the porn on my phone.
I was gonna say she's probably got like, oh, porn in her DMs like crazy. You never know. Oh my gosh. So yeah, what triggered? I want to know more about that. What were you thinking?
I just was like, in my mind, I was like, I don't want to be distracted by anything else because this is I'm gonna really put all my eggs in this basket, or rather, semen in that egg basket. um, I
Dad
really
jokes for
wanted
days.
to give it all my all, and be 100% about it. Like if I wanted to like watch porn, I wanted to look at pictures of her because I was just like, this is she was. I told her all the time, like you're my 10, you're everything I ever want. Like, and that's what I
Aww.
was convincing myself of at the time, and
I just want
now
like it
I've
right. You felt like you wanted to hide a part of yourself to be with this girl or at
oh
least to
yeah,
make her feel. Yeah.
there's just so much I try to hide about myself to please her.
Really? Well, so
Yeah.
and so that just falls in line with what I was saying about having relationships. My other two marriages prior to this one, was not having the ability to communicate because I hadn't learned it yet,
Hmm.
and unfortunately, it took me, a few years down the line to figure that out. But I'm a human being, and I think all we want is love. So we are willing to break our own boundaries a lot of the time just because we want to make other people feel like we love them or we want to be with them. Have you thought about how your boundaries have changed over the years since you're a little bit older than you used to be and you've been through a few relationships?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that speaks volumes, especially when I talk about how I was uncomfortable having sex, you know,
Yeah. I'm
all
very
those years
interested in that
ago.
thought. Uh-huh.
And now, like, my not girlfriend that I told you about before we started, her and I have such a very open communication line that,
Right.
if she were to come over tonight, I could say, "Hey, let's do some feet stuff," and she'd be like, that's kind of all right. Fuck it, let's try it. She's
Yeah.
just it's very open. It's very like, okay, cool, let's try it. I've never done that before. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's a friends with benefits for those of you guys who aren't psychic and know what I'm thinking. But we're friends with benefits relationship that I have for about a year now, and it's so unusual to both of us who are in it that it's lasted as long as it has, and we're
Uh-huh.
able to just like comfortably have sex whenever we want and do weird things, and then also like, okay, see you, bye.
Right.
Like there's no relationship attached to it. It's like, call her up, hey, you want to come over and bang real quick or do some weird feet stuff or whatever, and sure, comes over, we have sex, she pets my dogs, I cook her food, and then she leaves tonight or
Dude,
tomorrow. And
because you have to cook our food. That's a law. If you're giving
well,
it
yeah,
up, somebody has to cook.
yeah, 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 I'm not a savage.
I love that about you. I love that about you. So, going back to the whole friends with benefits thing, I really I sometimes equate polyamory with friends with benefits. And for those polyamorous people out there that are listening, I'm not trying to say that I'm an expert on polyamory. But to me, the meaning of that is that you can, you're in these relationships and it's okay. It's quite okay to for you to have your friends with benefits, and then she has other friends with benefits, and obviously she probably knows that you may have other friends with benefits. It's just one of those things that I think it's important that if you're in a relationship like that, that you take the time to make sure that you are communicating. When I had my friend Robert on a few shows ago, he talked about the you're not just when you're in a polyamorous relationship or in an open relationship like you're talking about, it's not just you and that person in that relationship. It's you and however many people are in that group
Hmm.
that are all relating to each other, right? And I think it's a really cool thing. but there has to be huge amounts of communication when you are in a relationship like that. Huge amounts, because people get their feelings hurt and then it ruins everything, and nobody wants that. I mean, your goal in life is to feel loved, and I'm hoping to show love. That's what I loving kindness. That's what we do around here. A lot of loving kindness. And it's important that people are able to speak their mind. But I know, I mean, like, there's a lot of work still yet to be had. The world is not ready for all open relationships all the time. That's just not a thing that can happen. It's just not a thing that people are ready for.
No, I think you're right. It's a lot of checks and balances, and like
Yeah.
sometimes I get a little worried, and like her and I will have to have a conversation. I'm like, "Hey, are we good still? Like, do you want me to buy you flowers?" And we've talked about like what would it look like if we took this to the next level? What if we were in a relationship and we held hands and we spent every waking moment together? Is that what we're both looking for? If not, then why not? And having that really, really raw conversation, and not just once, but often. I
Yes.
try to think about having it like every quarter, 4 times a year of like, hey, you good?
You know what? I like, this is something that you can get down with, I'm sure of it. You know how before you end your shift, you have to check your truck, right?
Yeah.
Before this encounter ends, let me check you out. Let me make sure. Are we
Yeah.
good? We good? We good? Okay. We'll see you next time, right? See you next shift. That's it.
Hmm.
So, you're so right about that, in the fact that relationships need the communication. It's got to be there. Got to be there.
It's got to be there. And like I said, I think the mistakes that I've made in the past is that I made that check once.
Oh yeah.
I made it once and quick. Like, we're good. All right, see ya. I didn't
Mhm.
I didn't check the tires. I didn't look under the hood. I just was like, poked my head in the back. Was like, we good? All right, see you tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. You didn't check the expiration dates, did you? Who got on the
No,
expiration dates? Because things expire.
they do, and they change.
Yes,
Like
yes.
just because like again, I will go back to feet. Just because I'm into feet this week, I may not be into them in 2 months.
Right,
Maybe in 2 months I want to be choked. I don't
right.
know. I don't know how things are going to change and evolve, and that's what I think is really important. Is I- one, consent, huge consent for everything, and then communicate and be honest and just explore, enjoy life, because you don't want to eat the same salad every day. You want to have different salads with
Oh my
meat
gosh, I'm so
sometimes.
glad that you said that. Meat. Sometimes you just like mushrooms. I don't know.
I don't know.
You never know. Tofu, whatever you got.
So put some fruits in there,
A
whatever.
little vajankle going on. I'm not gonna. I'm telling you right now that this it's disturbing to me on a different level, and I haven't figured out exactly why. I don't know if it's because I have actually seen severed limbs before, or just the like the vajankle makes me nervous. Just does.
Just
The
it's less
realness.
the idea, it's more of the manufacturer and how like whose foot did they model that off of? Because it's perfect.
It
It
is
looks
totally perfect. I know. I
really
see the gleam
real.
in your eye. I know you're gonna order one. I know it. I want you to send me pictures of it, just
Let the
of
record
it.
show she brought this up. I didn't bring this up. She showed me.
I showed him the vajankle only because I don't even know how I even know about this, other than I think I might have been watching something like a Vice show. Have you ever watched Vice? They do all these discovery stories about everything, and they actually had a story about the sex dolls, the human sized sex dolls, and
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that
yeah.
may have been a part of that show, perhaps. But it's not like I don't watch weird and unusual things about sexuality and porn stuff, because I do. My mom would be so proud of me saying this right now. And if my sister's listening, don't you tell my mom this at all. She doesn't want to. She grew up in a different time. She does not want to talk about vajankles, but she would she would definitely have an opinion on it, guaranteed. Guaranteed. So, what is the most unusual sexual fantasy that you think that you have shared with another individual?
Me personally, that I've shared with somebody, that what I think is the most unusual.
Pop quiz.
Well, and I have an issue with these types of questions as a healthcare provider. When someone says like, "Oh, what's the worst thing you've ever seen?"
Oh
You're
yeah,
like,
no.
"My worst thing changes. Like
Right.
your worst
Okay.
thing to me might just be a Tuesday." You know, my worst thing is that infected foot that's like hasn't been taken care of or what.
Gotcha.
Anyways, enough of that. Back to the sex talk. I think the one that makes me feel the most uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
Um, j- I don't have a foot fetish, right? And
Uh-huh.
I'm still trying to figure out how to talk about it, but like sometimes I want to see your foot
Uh-huh.
while we're having sex. Not like just like, hey, show me a toe. Oh, baby. Well, like, may need your position to where like I want to see your full body, everything like and I don't it's weird for me to explain because I
Yeah.
every time I find myself talking about it, I'm like, no, I don't want it in my mouth. I don't want it on my face. I don't want it on anything. Just like it's obviously it's weird for me to talk about.
It's okay. I don't mean to make you sorry I put you on the spot. I didn't make you think I didn't want you to be uncomfortable. But okay, so that's your fantasy. And if you had like let's say 10 years down the road, feet are old. You're done with feet. Maybe
Right,
you're
cuz
married. Maybe you're
again,
not.
I've never had this before.
Right.
So it's a new thing for me. So I'm
Right.
like, what is going
So
on?
maybe you're married, maybe whatever. Maybe perhaps you're into microwaving fruit or melon. By the way, I'm bringing this up right now because he just told me this story and it blows me away in a so like I'm not surprised way. Tell me about microwaving melons.
I have never done this again. It's in a couple of movies and like TV shows, but there
Yeah.
are some creative ways that men try to masturbate
Mhm.
or ejaculate rather. And one of the more creative stories I've heard, and man, I wish I knew. I want to say it's like I can't think of the movie it is. Anyways, where like guys will take a cantaloupe, cut a hole in it, and throw that cantaloupe in the microwave for X amount of time. And the story goes like you have to figure out the right amount of time because like the outside of the melon may be warm, but the core of the melon, because the way a microwave works, will be like piping hot. So you
Like
put your
lava.
junk in there and you get a third-degree burn, then you have to call the medics and they have to treat your burned wiener.
Oh
But
my gosh, they wouldn't treat it.
if
They would take you right to the ER. Don't think it. You gonna put some burn salve on that form, are you?
I would, I'm gonna
You're
treat
not a
them.
savage.
Yeah, poor little peepee needs some
Oh my
help.
gosh, that would be on Reddit on the next morning. You guarantee it. Factual.
Dear Reddit, the nicest paramedic put this cream on my penis today.
He says he's coming back tomorrow. I love that. Oh my gosh. Oh, this has been the greatest conversation, Jordan. I'm having you back soon. We're going to talk about more things. But to answer Charles Ramirez's question about sexual fantasies, why we don't talk about them, I think we've covered a lot of that reason. But I definitely think, Charles, if you think about it, um, it's really hard to see perspective from the other person's point of view. It really is. Every time you say something, it sounds good to you, it doesn't necessarily translate that way to other people. So unfortunately, one of the things that gets in the way of a good relationship is that ability to figure out how to communicate what you want. My suggestion always is to play a game. Make a game
Yeah.
out of anything, like drawing pictures. This is a really cool thing that my husband and I have done in the past, and I'm going to have to post these pictures because it's flipping hilarious. We were fighting one day, and so we didn't want to talk, but we were hungry, so we had to go eat. And so instead of talking, when you go to a Mexican restaurant, they give you the bowl of salsa and then you can get some hot queso as well. So I was just, eating my chips and queso, and a little drip of queso dropped into my into my salsa. And then I thought, oh, so I actually Dave and I had a competition on who could draw the best with queso in salsa. And I have an actual picture that I took of my salsa, which kind of looked like I called it my a dad face. It was just a round face, hair, whatever. He turns around and flips this bowl, and it's a woman on her knees blowing a guy. As I swear, what the silhouette looks like. Now, how the hell he ever did that, I have no idea, but I'm happy that he did because it's hilarious. And we started laughing at that point. So if you can maybe do a little game with charades about, can you guess what I'd like to do to you tonight? Right? Maybe that might be a thing to do. Or maybe Pictionary. This is what I want to do to you tonight. And if they're not down for it, at least you get a good laugh out of it, you know? Just try some if you have been unsuccessful with just straightforward communication or you're feeling frustrated about it, write it down, make a game of it, try to do something a little more creative. And I know men out there obviously can be creative because I've seen the vajankle, for gosh sakes. I can't get off that right now because it's just stuck in my mind. um I
No, you're right. I
apologize.
think
It's true.
I think that's a great idea. They make sex Jenga, right?
Uh-huh.
Which is not like sex Twister. It's a Jenga tower where you pull the thing out, the Jenga block out, and it says something, like kiss me on the neck or whatever, just like sex dice, and it says
Right.
on one dice it says lick, touch, feel, suck, whatever, and then the other one's a body part or
Right.
something. That's a great way to break the ice. Plan out a date night of like, hey, let's do dinner and let's play a game afterwards. And then she doesn't know or he doesn't know that it's going to be a sex night. And if you don't have that opportunity because you got kids, life's crazy or whatever, text them. Text them when you're at work and just be like, God, I can't stop thinking about you, because everyone loves that feeling of like,
Uh-huh.
damn, he wants me.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then you can
Exactly.
expand it like, man, I want you so bad. And then get them to tell you something, because if you're too scared to break the ice, see if you can get them to help you do that of like,
Mhm.
tell me what you want me to do tonight, and then
Right.
you can maybe slide in your
Exactly.
dark fantasy.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to if you've opened up a Pandora's box with this. My sweet
Embrace it.
friend Wendy, you know who I'm talking about. Pandora's box, girl. Pandora's box. But anyway, do whatever you can to make these last moments on earth pleasant. We don't know if tomorrow is coming, and my sweet paramedic friend here will let you know. We don't always make it out alive, do we?
Hey, if tomorrow's not coming, at least I'm gonna be.
Oh my gosh. You've been waiting this whole show to say that, haven't you? I love
You
it.
teed
I
me
love it.
up. You set me up.
I did it on purpose. I love it. All right. So we are coming to the end of our time together, Jordan. Tell me, is there something else that you want to say to the entire world about sexual fantasies and talking about them?
Trust. Trust your spouse, trust yourself, love yourself, and communicate. Consent is key, of course. I think you can never say that enough, but
Goes without saying, for sure.
if especially if you're married and you're thinking about this and maybe your spouse doesn't know that you listen to these two weirdos talk about sex right now, like, you've trusted this person for the rest of your life. So tell them. Just explore each other, explore life, and enjoy every moment you have.
I love it. I love it. And remember, just because you didn't like it 10 years ago doesn't mean you wouldn't like it now. Just because you didn't like it with this person doesn't mean you won't like it with that person.
Yeah.
So be open, be honest, communicate. That's it. Oh my gosh, Jordan, I love your face so much. The more time I spend with you, the more time I want to spend with you. This has been great. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. But just as a reminder, again, you can find me and the awesome content of Berry Pleasures at berrypleasures.com. Berry Pleasures on YouTube and Twitter. And you can find me at Pleasure Pathways on Facebook and Instagram. Jordan, I love you. Thank you so much. and your little puppy back there too. Thanks, thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Just Some Podcast Media.